This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. It is Tuesday.
Kinda. It feels like Wednesday.
Feels like Thursday. Yeah. Because Steelers are traveling tomorrow and they play Thursday night. So for a regular week, they had jammed like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're all jammed into today in terms of practice stuff and everything that we had to do.
I would say the same with our worlds.
Yeah. But we have the injury report for the Steelers.
All right,
and
start there.
The practice was a practice, but it wasn't really a
In
practice.
name only, yeah.
Yeah, it was a hat practice, as they like to call it. It's kind of a glorified walkthrough, just going through, okay, here's what the coaching staff has come up with, here's what we're going to run, and you go out there and you
You're not
execute.
installing new stuff this week.
No.
Or, like, we haven't used this in 2 weeks, we'll pull it back out, so just to refresh
Or
it.
this one's from the beginning of the season. We haven't done it the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks, but we'll do it in this game. Najee Harris, a full participant today. He had rested on Monday. Corey Trice, a full participant again today. We'll see if he gets activated
Yeah,
for
that
this
is
one.
interesting.
I doubt it.
I see both sides, but
Yeah.
it's a little crowded, yeah.
Yeah. Alex Highsmith did not practice. He's not expected to play. Isaac Seumalo, Cam Hayward, and Larry Ogunjobi all were given Veterans Days off.
That's
Fine.
very common on a
Yeah.
Thursday game, right?
And then Michael Pruitt and TJ Watt both were resting yesterday. They practiced today. So that's it.
Okay, so Pruitt will be in the mix. Really, all you're missing is Highsmith, it sounds like.
That sounds about it.
Yeah.
Which, again, going into a Thursday night game is,
After Ravens?
yeah.
Right. I mean, I was worried. There's a couple things that happened in the Ravens game. I thought, no, they probably won't have him for Thursday. But Benton was one I was concerned about. The Trice thing is not really a needle mover either way for this week.
No.
You got
No,
10 days after that, too. You can figure things out, the pecking order. Sutton can play outside if catastrophe happens to or whatever. Highsmith would be wonderful, but you got three really good edge guys still.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice trade deadline pickup. Right, It's
Yeah.
okay. Right, and their tackles are terrible.
Speaking of them,
Okay, let's go.
Joel Bitonio has a pectoral injury. He was limited today.
But he's one of the only guys they can count on that O-line.
Yeah. Jordan Hicks, one of their linebackers, a full participant. He's dealing with elbow and triceps injuries, though.
Not a great player, but he's active and is a high tackle count guy, I think, from what I remember.
Yeah. Maurice Hurst, full participant with a shoulder. Jerry Jeudy, full participant with a knee. Elijah Moore, shoulder injury, limited.
Okay. They count on him a lot. I mean, those three receivers have quietly made some noise, became fantasy relevant all of a sudden. Imagine when you have a professional quarterback, how much it helps.
Myles Garrett,
Oh,
added to the injury report with a hip issue, did not practice today.
wow. I mean, that would obviously be the biggest blow they could withstand. I mean, he's the guy you fear most on that team. Who knows? Maybe it's just precautionary, but
He's
not what
already
you
been
want to be
dealing with
added.
a foot issue all year long.
Yeah, and doesn't have a lot of incentive to play on a short week and
Yeah.
beat his body up further. But I don't want to get people too encouraged on that one.
Greg Newsome, shoulder injury, limited.
Okay, one definitely to keep an eye on.
David Njoku, knee injury, limited.
Wow. Okay.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson, right finger injury. He was a full participant. Tight end, was it Greg Swaim? Jeff Swaim?
Jeff.
Swaim. Yeah,
Jeff with a G, I
Jeff
think,
with a
right?
G.
Yeah,
That's what threw me. Concussion, did not practice, so he's not going to play. He would probably be the chipper.
I guess. So we talked about this. I don't want to interfere with the middle of your deal there, but we
down that rabbit
sometimes
hole.
we free flow jazz. Heavy 11 team.
Yeah.
Those three receivers, Jeudy, Tillman, and Moore. And this is all just post Jameis being inserted, kind of like when the Steelers put Wilson in.
Yeah.
If you just kind of look at the offense and passing game since then, the three of them get a lot of targets. Like, they're all fantasy relevant. They're all like 8 to 11 targets, 25% target
That's
share.
how much they're throwing the football.
They're throwing the ball a ton, and the Njoku's hasn't fallen off. So they have four guys that are not superstars. I'd rather have Amari Cooper than all of them, but they're all good.
It's a good group.
Yeah, and what they envisioned when they brought them in. Now a quarterback that can get them the ball. Thus, you don't want any of them pass blocking.
No.
It only leaves one more guy, one more eligible receiver to help your front five, and your tackles are a disaster. Is that going to be Chubb or Ford? Are they going to bring in a sixth lineman?
Well, Ford has been playing on third
He's been
downs.
playing the most, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he outsnapped Chubb heavily in this last game. I don't know what he's like in protection, but I doubt he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And what's your six-man protection scheme to be? And is that enough?
Right.
For long developing pass plays? Thus, they lead the league in sacks allowed.
There you go. Denzel Ward with ribs and ankle injury, limited today.
Huge with Newsome, too.
And then Jedrick Wills, knee injury, didn't practice yesterday. I think that was was limited today.
Okay. And we know Jones is not playing. He
Right.
is out for the year.
They're all kinds of banged up.
Yeah, I say corners and tackles and Garrett are what I'm paying attention to there. What corners are dressing, what tackles are going to start, and, of course, hey, if Myles Garrett doesn't go, their front seven kind of loses all its teeth.
Yeah. Now, the sacks have been less with Jameis Winston in there. He's taken seven sacks on like 142 dropbacks. So that's about one every 20 dropbacks. Thing is they're dropping back to pass a whole bunch.
A whole bunch.
But he's also put 7 balls, this according to Pro Football Focus, 7 interception-worthy throws.
Oh, yeah.
On 140 throws. So
he's not quite the crazy gunslinger he was 5 years ago, but that's in his DNA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Favrean in a way without the MVP stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's kind of, and it's ironic that he's Cleveland's quarterback now. He's kind of old school Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah, it's a good call too. Not real mobile.
Tough
as could be.
Will throw he can make all the throws. He's certainly capable, but he'll also throw some to the other team.
He absolutely will, and he's not bashful at all. His teammates adore him. He's a really weird customer.
He'll be those W's.
But everyone says he's super smart. I mean, everyone loves him. They will run through a wall for him, but he's never really gotten over the hump.
Yeah.
And I retweeted this. I mean, Ian Hartnett wrote this. It's kind of a fantasy note. He works for Fantasy Life, Matthew Berry's site, and he does a good job. But this is Jameis Winston's average depth of target by year, starting in 2015. 5th, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 2nd, 5th, 1st. This year, 2nd. I mean, they hold the ball, and that's just who he is. He just throws the ball downfield, and it takes a while for those guys to get there. And how do you protect?
That has not been the approach teams have chosen to take against the Steelers.
Not at all.
It's been get the ball out in 2.4 seconds or faster, because if you don't, you're going to get hit.
With extra tight ends or fullbacks or chippers, and that's not how this team plays at all, or this quarterback. I was really worried about this game. I become less and less and less worried.
I'm still I have concerns.
Yeah.
The Steelers are in their last 20 games after playing the Ravens are 10-10.
Are they? I tried to look that up and I couldn't find the best place to do that.
Well, you can find it on their web, or you can go through their books. And
I could have done game by game. I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
I just asked.
You wanted somebody else to have done the work,
right?
For you,
I said
I did.
Yeah,
there you go.
Somebody, perfect. I'll write it down.
The
Make it my own.
Steelers also, and this isn't. I don't kill Mike Tomlin for this stat. They're 1-7 on Thursday nights under Mike Tomlin on the road.
Oh, are they on the
road games?
That's the league.
That's the league as a whole.
I hardly ever pick a road team on.
It's really
Thursday
difficult
night.
to do because there was a while there, for a long stretch, nobody won on Thursday nights when they first started playing these things.
I think it's a massive disadvantage, and it's
huge,
frankly unfair to some degree. That's why I dreaded this game forever.
3 of the Tomlin losses on the road on Thursday nights have come in Cleveland.
Really? Which is
doesn't seem real fair either, because
right.
I can't remember any Thursday night games here against Cleveland. It's like the Browns. The Browns always open the season at home.
Do they?
Every year.
I say the Thursday night thing's very real now you say it. Like Steelers at Browns Thursday night. It feels like you can count on it.
Now, some of those were, one was a Mitch Trubisky game.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was a Mason Rudolph game that he got clubbed over the head. That we've talked about that one before. Ben Roethlisberger starts that game, and his number one receivers is James Washington with.
That game was a disaster from the
start.
They
They were all banged up.
They had crazy.
They had no wide receivers.
I remember no one being able to get these guys lined up.
Yeah.
Like they were new on the road. It'd be like if you lost all your receivers against the Ravens. Like, okay, now go win.
Yeah.
Pickens, Austin,
guys
Jefferson,
they called up off the
Yeah.
practice squad were like playing key downs in that game.
Yeah.
So that one. And the third one was the Thursday night game up there a decade ago when it was about minus 40 degrees and the wind was blowing 300 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And Brady Quinn started and threw for 80 yards and beat the Steelers.
And that was enough, yeah. Because
they were built to pass at that point, and
just a great equalizer.
Yeah, they didn't have their running backs weren't.
Not that it's similar, but you mentioned that there might be snow for this one, huh?
Could be some snow, could be some wind.
Yeah.
Steelers are much better equipped to deal with that now.
Oh, I think so.
I think they're better equipped to deal with that than Cleveland is.
If you're going to be a deep passing team, I mean, it's not Chubb behind a great O-line anymore.
No.
You know, not that Chubb's not going to be in the game, but he has not looked like himself or produced like himself.
3.1 yards per carry.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's pretty bad. And that's after averaging over 4 yards a carry last week against the Saints.
That was his best game, right?
And the Saints have like one of the worst run defenses in the league.
Yeah, exactly.
So
did I interrupt your report there?
No, that was
the last guy.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought we were midway through it. But no, it sounds like corners.
I mean, they got like 12 guys on their injury list.
Which isn't uncommon for a Thursday game.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have a normal practice week, even the home team. But corners, tackles, I'm just curious who plays. You know, who the starters are.
This doesn't matter. Like, Dawan Jones is out. He's done.
Count. Yeah.
Who else are they? They're missing some other guys.
I don't know Conklin's status. I think he's playing, but he's kind of limping along.
Kind of a shell of himself.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be Conklin and Wills, which was their opening day starters, but they're not.
They weren't good to be,
They've been bad all year.
Yeah.
Some of that's Watson. But my point, though, was I was really worried about this game coming in because all those factors. I didn't know that Tomlin's record was that poor on Thursday nights on the road, but it doesn't shock me because everyone should have a losing record on the road on Thursday nights. That's a little more startling than I thought. But style of play really favors the Steelers.
Yeah, if you're just looking at this from a matchup standpoint,
if it's
the Browns don't match up well with the Steelers.
Both teams coming off a bye in Wichita, Kansas, it's a terrible matchup for the Browns. But that's not how they're playing it,
Yeah, I just don't know how many of the guys in that Browns locker room. How can I put this gently? I don't know how many of them have quit.
Yeah. The defense sure looked like it did against the Saints. It looked like it
quit a little bit against the Saints.
Yeah, and the offense has throughout the year. I still feel like they're getting a shot in the arm from Winston. Ding dong, the witch is dead. I don't have to play with Watson anymore.
We got Chubb back. Wow, look at this.
Yeah. The receivers are getting the ball and that kind of stuff too.
That makes everybody happy.
Yeah, I mean, Winston's a wide receiver friendly guy, or a receiver friendly guy. But the defense looks like they are making business decisions, to say the least. And I'm not saying it's okay. These guys are getting paid, but you start trading away assets like Cooper and Zadarius Smith and JOK's hurt. And you're on the field all the time.
You're 2-8.
Your best guy's got a bad foot, and now he's got a hip or whatever, too. It's like, this is getting old, man.
Yeah. I'm not going to be here next year. The coach isn't. The coach is probably not going to be here next year.
I was in the building 20-some years ago in this exact situation, basically, and it's miserable. At that point, Butch probably would have been let go, and you have an interim guy, and your fate is sealed too. And what are we doing here?
I just wonder, will their fans show up? Cold, wet, snowy night, Thursday night game.
Maybe just out of Steeler hate.
Maybe.
But they could turn against the home team, too.
Quickly.
Very quickly.
Quickly.
Do you think a lot of Steeler fans are picking up tickets as we speak?
I think they'll be available.
I would think that's very hint, hint. Go.
So there you go, Steeler fans. You want to go see a game Thursday night? It's a quick drive. You can.
How cool would it be to take over the Brown Stadium?
You can take Friday off. We're not taking Friday off. We'll be here Friday, but
we won't be here Thursday. It's not that we won't be doing anything, but we will not.
We'll be working the game on Thursday, but you want to take Friday off? Go up, take a little trip up Thursday.
Take the whole weekend.
You can wait.
Hard Rock,
make it a long weekend. You
right.
can leave work at 4:00 and still get up there in time for the game.
Yeah. Do it. How cool would that be to take over divisional?
That never happens.
That doesn't happen in the North,
the one thing Steeler fans can take over stadiums. They're always non-division stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
They very rarely do you see a takeover of a division opponent stadium because
even when Cincy was in the doldrums,
you might get 20% Steeler fans there, but it wasn't
not
50.
Towels everywhere,
I'll bet there are quite a few tickets available for this game because they just don't want to see the Browns get the snot beat out of them again.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Browns fan and night game, you got to work in the morning, I'll dump my tickets this week.
Yeah.
I think that's very
Christmas
possible.
is coming up. I could use the money.
Yeah, take a little money, give it to your kids,
There you go. So, tickets available probably. So if you want to go up and see the game, head on up. It's not a bad drive.
No, it's not. You've made it a million times. I made it a million times. What, two and a quarter, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
You had an interesting little tidbit. The Browns are the lowest scoring team in the first half of games this year.
Yeah. And the Steelers are the best second half. So that doesn't add up to a lot of points for the Brownies, but I'm sure that they'll make some plays. I mean, and I'm not going to give up my score now, but I've been thinking about it because for another site I need to have it sooner than later. I just don't see – I see plays being made by the Browns. I think Winston will make some bad, more good than bad, and their receivers will find
Will he
some
make
open
more good than bad? Because his
well, I mean, 2 or 3 bad goes a long way.
He has I forget the exact number, but he has fewer big time throws, according to Pro Football Focus, than he has made bad throws.
Turnover
worthy throws.
I know that number's high. I didn't know his big time throws are
not
down.
quite as high. Whereas Russell Wilson, on the other hand, has made.
Oh, I bet he's got a ton.
He's made more. He's only had 2 balls that were considered interception worthy that he's thrown.
One of which got picked.
Yeah. On the other hand, he's made, I think, 7 big time throws and like 129 pass attempts.
That adds up. I'm sure we could single them out pretty easy too. A lot of them to George.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Maybe one to Mike Williams.
Yeah, one to Mike Williams.
So interesting.
And speaking of George, I mean, if their corner's banged up,
I
mean, he could feast.
Yeah. Well, Baltimore's corners last week weren't banged up. They were doubling him, and he still feasted.
Yeah. They're a real high, like the Steelers, single high safety team. And, just to flip it, Steelers blitzed a lot in these last 2 games, especially on first and second down, played a lot more man. I think they just go back to rushing for, I don't know if it'll be Minka in center. I mean, he could come be the Njoku guy, as you've mentioned. But I don't know that you need to vary it up a lot or get out of your comfort zone here. Put a 3-deep shell over things.
When Jameis throws you one, catch it.
Catch it. Hit him a lot. Rush the passer in a different way than you did Daniels and Lamar too. If you happen to run past him, so be it. He's not going to kill you with his legs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a 4.97 guy.
Yeah, he's a heavy-footed guy.
Yeah. I mean, he may get out of the pocket and run a little.
Sure.
But it will be very little.
If the C's part, and so be it. I mean, that's fine. If you get extra sacks because of your pass rush plan, there could be a lot of sacks in this game.
There could be a lot of sacks in this game. They can get after him.
Yes.
And, again, I don't know how they get around to blocking T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, at all.
He'll probably play, who knows. But the fact that Bitonio's on there, at least Bitonio's battled Hayward 1,000 times. You know?
But if he's limited with a pectoral issue,
right, against Cam's strength,
that power move,
right, that's a terrible injury for them.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about their offensive line. Even when they were considered the quote unquote best offensive line or top 5 offensive line, it was always because of what they did in the run game.
Oh yeah, Chubb centric,
not what they do in the passing game. And I always wondered if it was Chubb more than it was the line, or
In his prime, I thought he was the best ball carrier in the league. Right there with Derrick Henry, if not better.
Now he's not that, and they don't run block worth a snot.
No, and the back doesn't make up for it.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, the O-line coach is in Tennessee with his son. I'm sure that has a ripple effect or a massive tidal wave effect.
Yeah, so it's a bad football team. They've earned that 2-8,
and it's not all Watson's fault. Like the version we're looking at now is better than that version, but it's not close to what they should be or be a contender or, anything close to that.
Looks like same old Browns.
Yeah, and there's got to be bad mojo.
Bad mojo. Yeah, so we'll see. They did rise up and beat the Ravens a couple of weeks ago. So,
and that was his first game as a starter. You get a jolt from that. But the Ravens also didn't catch interceptions that hit him in the chest and things like that, too.
There were 3, including one by Kyle Hamilton at the end that would have clinched it.
Yeah, Ravens have a little bit of a history of this sort of thing, too.
Yeah. So we'll see. Anyways, we're going to talk more about this game. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio with Matt Williamson as well here. And, of course, you can listen to The Drive every Monday through Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. You can also subscribe to the Steelers or download the Steelers mobile app, and the show will download onto your phone. You can also follow us on our YouTube page and subscribe to the Steelers feed on there, and you'll get all these videos and all the stuff that we do on there. There's a lot of great stuff on there. We also do the matchup on there with Rob King.
You can leave me a bunch of unkind comments if you want to.
Apparently, people like to do that.
Last couple days,
I had no idea what a hater you are.
You used to be the target more often than not, from what I understand. And
so people targeted me because, well, I'm quote unquote a homer.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting targeted because
I hate the Steelers.
You hate the Steelers,
right?
Which one is it, folks?
Right. That's fine. I'm not going to pick them to go 17-0 every game.
I'm not going to pick them to go 17-0, even though I have picked them in each of the first 10 games.
Yeah, I didn't pick them against the Jets or Ravens. So
but that's largely because I thought that they were going to win those first 10 games, and they've lost 2 of them by 3 points.
I wish I would have picked the other team in the Colts and Cowboy game. Trying to pick the games right.
So I'm 8-2 picking the Steelers this year. You're
I'm 6-4. Yeah. And by the way, the Ravens were favored.
Your butt like I kicked your butt.
Watch it.
But that wasn't. People weren't as angry about that.
No, they were a little more understanding on that,
as they were with your Myles Garrett being better than T.J. Watt.
Yes, and
opinion.
I think I phrased it
a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
I'm willing to go down that road. I mean, I think I phrased it that I prefer Garrett's game to Watt by 0.00001%. Like, these are apples and apples.
This is like picking your favorite child.
Right. These are elite players. These are maybe the 2 best defensive players on the planet right now. And if I said that and you came back with, you know what, I like Micah Parsons better than both. Okay. I mean, they're elite players. Watt's stats are better. Watt should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year. Again, I am absolutely splitting hairs. Part of it is because I was a scout. His physical traits are unbelievable. Garrett's.
Yes.
And I'm not making fun of any of you, but you've watched Watt a lot more. I mean, I'm sure none of you have watched as many, or 1% of you has watched as many snaps of Garrett as Watt. I haven't either, but I've watched a lot. And he is jaw-dropping. I mean, he's 280 with Von Miller-like bend and almost Reggie White-like power. Like, he is in a lab. Now, his production's not as good, but it ain't too bad, you know? So
yeah. All the stuff out there on I mean, they've both been in the league since 2017.
Right. So there's a lot of parallels.
So anytime you see a stat that T.J. Watt is first in this, Garrett is second.
Yep. And Watt's first in most of them.
Yeah.
Forced fumbles, sacks per game, all that stuff.
See, to me, the forced fumbles is a big part of it.
Monster.
Because Watt has a huge lead there.
Yeah. I mean, he's like the best ever at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Lawrence Taylor-like. I mean, I don't know who else has done it in history, but he's taken it to a new level. I mean, he's Peanut Tillman of edge rushers. I mean, it's unbelievable. And
I wouldn't want to get punched on, by the way.
What's that?
Peanut Tillman punch, I think I could take.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to get punched by T.J. Watt.
Watts is like, you know, like
he's bringing it from Kenosha.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's helped make this popular, but you see it around the league now.
Yeah.
And if I miss the ball and happen to drill the guy in the arm, you know.
Well, he got called for that one time, I remember.
I was saying,
because he missed the ball and punched the guy in the gut.
Yeah. It's like Joe Green, you know, like that used to be illegal. But anyway, I mean, do I firmly believe it to my grave that Garrett's a way better player than Watt? Of course not. I mean, they are this close, but he is unbelievably impressive. And off the air, you mentioned it's Troy versus Ed Reed.
It is. It's Troy versus Ed Reed. What do you want?
There's not a wrong answer.
No.
I mean,
they're both
that good.
Fantastic.
Right. And unlike a lot of local media, a large portion of my income is doing national stuff. You know, it's not just the Steelers. I mean, it's my favorite part of it, and it's the thing I do the most. But that's my opinion, you know. Doesn't matter if he's a Brown or a Bear or a Seahawk or whatever. He just happens to be a Brown. And I happen to work for the Browns. People are like, oh, you have loyalty to the Browns. They fired me.
They fired you.
It was a
after
miserable
year.
I spent as much time watching Ben Roethlisberger highlights as I did watching the Browns. I sent Browns gear home and nobody would wear it. And frankly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because then I got into media and got hired by ESPN like 6 months later. It was great.
Got to move back to Pittsburgh.
Right, with my wife and had kids, you know. Right, and I got hired by the Browns because that's the team that offered. If Kansas City would have offered me a scouting gig, I would have went to the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not like I had a loyalty to the Browns and I'm just picking what teams I get to work for. They don't just give out NFL jobs.
Well, that
like
was
Joe
another thing
Stout.
when you said last week that the
People
Ravens
hated that.
The Ravens were an organization that you would go work
I
for.
respected and would like to work for.
Here's a little hint for you folks. Like, I do what I do now for the Steelers.
Yeah.
I didn't always do what I do now for the Steelers.
Right.
For the first 30 years of my career, I worked for a newspaper or news outlet.
Yeah.
At one point, the Green Bay Packers wanted to hire me to go work for them. I would have done so had they offered a job.
Would that have been a similar capacity what you're doing now?
It would have been very similar to what I do now, and
like what Labs do.
They flew me out there. I sat down with them. I was a finalist for the job, and in the end, they gave it to a local guy, which I understand.
Yeah.
But had they done so, I'd be wearing green right now.
Right. And you folks that make fries for McDonald's, if Wendy's was going to give you a better deal, you do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of the gig.
Doesn't mean that we don't love what we do. We do. Otherwise, we wouldn't do. I mean,
right. And I grew up a Steelers fan since I could crawl, and I knew anything. I mean, I wore Steeler gear before they gave it to me. I mean, they're definitely my choice number one, and I don't want to leave town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have respect for the Ravens organization.
You're allowed to do that.
I'm allowed to do that. One thing I think I bring to the table that I think is lacking in this town is an appreciation of the opponent. There's a lot of good football in the NFL that's not in Pittsburgh. Just be aware, you know?
Yeah.
And you lose sometimes because of it.
Yeah.
And Myles Garrett's really good.
And that's one of the things that when something goes wrong with the Steelers, well, they screwed that up. So a lot of times the opponent did something really well.
Right.
They're professionals as well.
I mean, you mentioned Reed and Polamalu. Like, if you grew up hating Ray Lewis, great, you have that right. But just recognize he's really good at the game, you know, or Brady or whoever, you know, like they're still really good.
Yeah, that's part of the game too.
Yep.
So one guy who has been really good against the Browns in his career is Russell Wilson.
I thought you were going to say Watt.
Well, he's been
really
good against the Browns too. But Russell Wilson, 3-0 in his career against the Browns with Seattle and Denver, a passer rating of 114.7.
Wow.
That includes a win last year for Denver against the Browns. A game, I think it was 34-7 or something. I mean, they blew him out. It was 29-12.
Wow.
Now, his stats weren't overwhelming in that game. He was 13 of 22 for 134 yards and a touchdown. But he had a 91.9 passer rating, so that means he was even better than that, 114.7 going into that game. But he didn't turn the ball over. He only got sacked once. He ran 11 times for 34 yards in that game.
Really? Okay.
And
that was
remember,
a good defense, too.
That was a really good
defense.
defense. He also ran for a touchdown in that game. So he accounted for 2 of the touchdowns in that 29-12 victory.
I'd have to think about it, but there probably aren't many units that got as much worse as the Browns defense from last year to this year.
Been pretty,
and it's not all their fault. I mean, there's some other.
They've been on the field a lot,
right? But
actually,
that was a really good unit.
That's one of the things that kind of stood out to me when I was looking over Cleveland's stats for this year. They've actually got they're on the positive side in time of possession.
I was a little shocked by that too.
Yeah,
I don't quite know why.
The one thing their defense isn't doing this year is taking the ball away.
No,
they have 2 interceptions.
I know that's rare. I mean, it's almost hard to do.
And I think they've recovered 4 fumbles. So they have 6 turnovers this year. That you went from having maybe arguably the best defense in football. It was certainly in the top 3.
Yeah, and unbelievable at home.
Unbelievable at home. They were lights out at home.
Very average on the road.
And this year they've just been very average across the board.
Across the board. And no big plays, like you said.
And it's largely the same group of guys back.
It is. The same coordinator. Everyone's talking, the big coordinator.
Jim Schwartz,
right.
Maybe he'll get another head coaching job.
He's got Myles Garrett dancing behind the line of scrimmage, and look at all the cool stuff he's doing. Also, really good players. And
see, that's another thing I don't like about Myles.
I don't like that either.
You're out there doing these basketball moves.
Right.
Stop it.
Right.
Stop it.
No, I'm not saying I like him as I want to hang out with him. He's just good.
He might be. Right. Now, I've talked to people.
I'm not buying a Myles Garrett jersey.
I've talked to people up there, and they say he's a nice guy.
Supposedly.
And Tom Reed, who's been on our show before when he was working for The Athletic, actually went to Africa with Myles Garrett.
Oh, really?
And wrote about that trip, and I think he won awards for that story.
I remember when he was coming out as first overall pick. They were talking about all his off-the-field interests and well-spoken, intelligent, blah, blah, blah.
But he also flat out lied about
the Rudolph thing, right?
Rudolph,
100%.
And
he does cool Halloween stuff. Though.
One of the most despicable lies that you could make up.
I would say that's terrible.
It's pretty bad.
Really terrible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But Anyways, but Russell Wilson has been really good against the Browns.
Yeah, I didn't know that till just now.
T.J. Watt, really good against the Browns.
Exceptional, right.
But this is just another instance where the Steelers quarterback, I think two of those wins have come in Cleveland.
The Wilson wins.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Steelers quarterback.
So it's not an easy place to play.
No, it's
just
not.
Weather and so it's
because you got to deal with the winds.
Right.
It's always windy up there. Always.
No matter what. It blew me away when I moved there.
We were up there in a September game one year. I think the Steelers opened the season up there. And it's like 75 degrees, sunny. And I'm walking to my hotel, and I'm like, this wind is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So I lived my whole life in Pittsburgh. Worked for Pitt Panthers for 3 years. Got the job as the Akron Zips. Go Zips. Justin, that's right.
There
Got
you
that
go.
right.
Justin Miller, represent.
Yep. I'm my man Joe Moorhead up there trying to turn the thing around as their director of football ops. I'm like, the weather's probably pretty similar.
Yeah.
No. I mean, just walking to your car is an excursion in the winter. It bundled up in a flat spot there. I was like, wow.
Well, see, now, I grew up north of I-80, so I understand weather north. The closer you get to the lake, the worse.
Oh, yeah,
the worse it gets.
Right. I mean, I was at Pitt Johnstown as you were, and there was a lot of snow there, but it wasn't crazy windy like that. No.
No, the wind blows.
Weather is
and
way
blows.
different there.
So you do have to deal with that up there. We'll see that, they're building the new stadium up there. At least they've bought the land for it, and it's going to be a dome stadium.
I wish it would be retractable. Although you noticed Dallas had some issues with that last night. Stuff falling out of the sky.
Yeah, stuff falling off.
Yeah.
They had more than issues.
That was their only issue. They got more issues than that going on with that organization as we speak.
Yeah.
That's the least of their problems.
Unless they would have killed somebody.
Well, yeah, that could have been a lot worse.
That could have been way worse. But so, Wilson, he played in Denver last year.
Oh, yeah. Seattle's not exactly.
Seattle's not a great.
Arizona, right.
And if you see Russell Wilson, he's not the biggest guy.
He's short.
He is vertically challenged.
Yes. As quarterbacks go, he's short.
But he's not. He's put together like a running back, first of all.
Very much so.
I mean, he is thick.
I knew he was until I saw him up close. I was like, wow. I mean, he's built.
Yeah. But the other thing that jumps out to you about Russell Wilson is his hand size.
That's unusually large. I think it's over 10.
Yeah, for a guy that size to have hands that big. So gripping the football and spinning the football in weather, I don't think is an issue.
I don't think it's a problem with him at all. He also doesn't have a real long, over-the-top, long-arm delivery or any of that kind of stuff, too. So he's played in a lot of weather. Seattle's nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't expect the weather to affect him at all.
No. I'm surprised that's the first time it's come up that I've been around since he's been a Steeler. He has unusually large hands, especially for a smaller quarterback.
I shook his hand today. I interviewed him for something. We were one-on-one. I'm name dropping a little bit.
Yeah, nice work.
But
look for that on Steelers.com.
Yeah, because I don't talk to anybody in the locker room, one-on-one or anything. It's another comment that we had last week. How do you know this? Well, I talk to guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm talking to Russ today, and at the end of it all, we shook hands, and I'm like, his hand just kind of enveloped my hand.
I bet. I think it's over 10.
Yeah,
which is
got
huge.
a big hand.
Yeah.
Watt has big hands.
Monster.
First thing when we met him, because they brought him into us, we were doing a show during the draft that year, and he comes over to us, and first of all, you're like, yeah, that's a first-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looks smart,
and then he
too.
shook our hands. I'm like, Jesus. Like his fingers wrapped around my hand twice.
First time I saw Joey Porter Jr., too, was similar. Yeah, he shook my hand from across the room because his arms are like pterodactyls first. I was like, wow.
Yeah, you realize when you're around these guys just what different human beings they are.
Well, you learn that quick, but when you see the outliers amongst the outliers is wow. There's definitely some of that.
Yeah, it's just they're just built a little differently than your average
Myles
human
Garrett's
being.
one of them, folks.
Garrett is one of them.
He's as much of an outlier as you will ever find.
Yeah.
Right?
He gets all the way back around to where we started at.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do there.
There you go. Right. Nice job by you. Let's get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, except no imitations. And Matt, the Browns last week, I mentioned this earlier in the week, had all kinds of issues with Taysom Hill.
All kinds of issues, yeah. And he turned the ball over a fair amount.
He turned the ball over twice. He only touched the ball in seven carries. And
and he had some passes,
two
too.
passes and I think 5 catches.
Sounds about right. So
Yeah.
15-ish at most.
15 times he turned the ball over twice, but he scored 3 touchdowns.
And some long ones, and it was probably the reason they won as much as anything in that game.
So today Arthur Smith was asked about that, and he said, do you expect the Browns to have fixed their issues against some of the read option stuff and things of that nature? And, of course, Arthur Smith has a unique appreciation for Taysom Hill, having played in the division against him.
Head coach trying to game plan against him twice a year.
And he said, well, Taysom Hill is he's kind of a unique individual because
him and Fields aren't one for one.
No,
they're not. They're not.
He said because, they'll line Taysom Hill up at fullback. They'll line Taysom Hill up at wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, obviously, and running back. He said, I'd be crazy if I lined Justin Fields up at fullback.
Tight end and have him run routes, right, or lead block. I mean,
But some of what the Browns dealt with was some of the read option stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the Steelers, it's a short work week.
Yeah.
The Browns aren't fixing that in one. They didn't practice yesterday. They practiced
they're
today.
Going to see it.
Yeah, you're going to see some.
You already
Justin
have
Fields.
that in the playbook for the Steelers,
right? It's already there.
Yeah.
And Smith did say that the Steelers wanted to get to Justin Fields a little bit earlier in the game against the Ravens. They just didn't get in the right situation.
Okay. It's an effective weapon. We've said that since before the season. That, hey, I think both of us expected Wilson
the
to
day
win the
they
job.
signed him,
The day
or
they
traded
signed
for him,
him,
I
right.
should say.
There should be a
I'm
package.
like, there should be a package for Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't play any quarterback at all, you should have a Justin Fields package.
Yes. I think we both agree, but we haven't talked about it in a while. It's not just a goal line red zone thing.
No.
Because that neutralizes, last week aside, Wilson's phenomenal red zone passing ability.
And what I don't want to see, Matt, and I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, because there were a lot of times, like when the Steelers played, if you remember back in 2018, the Steelers played New Orleans down there. That was the AB game when he just went nuts.
He was like uncoverable, yeah.
And Juju fumbled at the end. In that game, if you remember, they took Drew Brees out of the game at midfield, brought Taysom Hill in, and had him throw like a 50-yard pass that got intercepted.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what happened last week against the Browns.
Except they didn't pick
They had him chuck one deep,
yeah.
and he got intercepted.
Yeah, right.
But you're taking Drew Brees off the field.
I used to have a lot of mixed feelings about that.
I don't mind it so much when you're taking, Joe Blow quarterback off the field.
Derek Carr or whatever. Right.
That's different.
Yeah, Peyton used to do that a lot.
Too much.
Too much, and got really infatuated with it. And that's Brees in his prime.
Yeah.
And I never quite got that. But it averaged over 6 yards a play. Brees seemed fine with it. It would be a play or two. Drew comes in on 2nd and 3. I'm like, all right, thanks. It's a little easier. I got a quick breather, got a little more water, talked to the quarterback coach. So it's a balance, but you can get a little too infatuated with it too.
I don't want to see it too much, and I don't want to see it, to your point, all the time in the red zone.
Right.
Because a lot of people are suggesting that to quote-unquote fix the Steelers' red zone problem.
And the thing with the Saints right now is Shaheed's out, all of Olave's out.
They're trying to manufacture offense however they can do it.
They can, right. Yeah. And Carr's not as good as Wilson, and the line's not as good. They don't run the ball as well. It's Kamara and Hill right now. So they're kind of pulling it out of nowhere. But that doesn't mean you can't piggyback off it.
It's not going to be 15 touches for Justin Fields in this game like it was for Taysom Hill last game.
No, but if he has 5, rushes and or passes, okay, I get it.
And the other interesting, the thing that Smith said today, he goes, look, I don't view Justin Fields as a specialty player.
Yeah, I don't think he's a gimmick guy like Hill is.
He's not a gadget player. He said, I view this as we have 2 starting quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. I think even like when Montana was strong, they would bring in Young because he was a lot different.
Yeah.
He was such a great runner at that time. People forget that about Young. He came in the league as a raw running
tremendous
stallion.
runner.
Tremendous running. And you put Joe Montana on the sideline. It's a little odd. Even Flacco was really good whenever Lamar was a rookie. But how do you keep that off the field, So it is a fine line.
You don't have Joe go over and stand at wide receiver.
Yeah, you don't play 10 on 11. You get him off the field. I never understood that at all. You just stand there and be tall. But no, I think it's a great week to do it. And Wilson, I'm sure, is fine.
He's fine with it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't
He's
think
been asked about it multiple times.
They're friends. It's not like he's on the sideline sulking or anything like that. It helps you win.
Yeah. So I would expect to see some of that in this game, just because the Browns had such a problem dealing with it last week.
It's a good thing to put on tape just for something else to prepare for.
Yeah,
too.
that's the other thing is it makes the future opponents now have to take a longer look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like it's a much different story, but the last 2 weeks, the way they play defense is a lot different than the first 8 or whatever. Well, now what are the Steelers going to do against us? I'm not sure. The more you put on tape, the harder it is to prepare. And oh, by the way, it's a super short week.
Super short week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see, what kind of little – they're not even wrinkles for the Steelers because they practice this stuff all the time. They have 6 games of Justin Fields to work with.
Absolutely, and a ton of camp.
Yeah. So they know what he likes to run. They know – and the other thing –
and he doesn't have to just run.
Right.
I mean,
he can throw.
He could drop back and run the exact same offense Wilson does for as long as he wants.
Because the thing is now when you bring him in those specialty situations, a lot of times – it's alert for the defense. Oh, he's going to run the football here.
Yeah.
Because, why else would they bring him in? Well, now you might have something open down the field that you wouldn't have. Somebody leaks out. And
it might be true every week, but I bet it's especially true this week because there's no prep time, and they just saw it on tape for the first time. I'm looking at it through a Browns perspective because I love the Browns. But anyway.
You kept all that Brown stuff, didn't you?
eBay. I actually still have a sweatshirt that says Williamson on it. That's the only thing. Yeah. But anyway, so their defensive coordinator might be like, okay, our only answer to what Fields coming out there is we're checking the cover 2. Whatever it is. We're going to have some alert, and we're going to check to something. Maybe it's 2 different coverages or 2 calls, but it's not the whole defensive playbook.
Right.
Without question. And Arthur Smith's going to catch on to that. That's what the assistant coaches are doing. They're like, every time Justin's out there, they're running cover 2. Okay, well, let's call a cover 2 beater. I mean, there's
he can do it.
Yeah, right. He can do all the traditional quarterback stuff.
Yeah,
so use the weapon.
Yeah, use the weapon. I'm surprised.
Just one more card. One more club in your bag.
And it does give you, if the idea is to just run a quarterback draw, it does give you different looks in the running game.
Mm-hmm. And you can have him out there without a running back. I mean, you could have 10 blockers with him, and still have the massive run threat.
Yeah.
So it's different looks. Running behind Darnell Washington.
Just a different club in your bag.
Mm-hmm.
And
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you got to use it. And the thing is, and people I think were wondering why they didn't use it as much over the first few weeks of when Wilson was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And Fields told me last week, I mean, his knee got banged up a little bit when he was starting.
Remember, he was third guy for a game or 2, right?
Yeah. Well, that was because of the hamstring.
Oh, that was a different injury?
Yeah,
okay.
That was a hamstring. But he got banged on the knee at one point when he was starting, and that's why he wasn't running as much as a starter.
Okay.
So I think now he's more completely healthy.
We said that a lot. Like, as good a runner as he's been for the Steelers, he's been better with the Bears.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when you see him healthy,
if you look at the 8-yard gain that he had last week when he slid,
right, that looked like him.
Stick, that looked like Justin Fields
just
taking
his
off.
gait and the way he accelerated and all that.
Right around
that
the end,
like
and just boom, and,
right.
I'll get my 8 yards. He need one more.
Yeah, that would have been nice, but it all worked out in the end.
I thought Bob Labriola was going to lose his mind when he slid.
Was a little testy myself.
Put your shoulder down and get the yard.
Right, you're only out there for one. But anyway, I have mixed feelings on this. What do you think about on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, almost tush-push situation? You're not even hiding it. You're just bringing in all the big dogs, and he lines up behind center, and 9 out of 10 times is going to sneak it.
Here's the issue I have with that.
I have one, and it's quarterback-center exchange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen those prop up nearly as much as
And I'll be honest, as
earlier.
I was watching from home, that play we were just talking about, I'm like, this is a crucial play, and this is a guy that screws up center snaps. I'm like, leave Russ in. And it worked, And more often than not, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But he does have a history.
Yeah. So you don't want to see that crop up in one of those situations where you turn the ball over because you missed the exchange.
Right.
And again, that's something you continue to work on. And maybe he's gotten better at it, but
I'm sure, but it's just it happened. I mean, it's on
times.
tape. Right, yeah.
It's there. Let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is hour number 2 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And it's time for the Fantasy Football Focus. And, Matt, we're going to have to build our DFS lineup tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. I thought you were springing on me today. I was like, wow.
We can do one tomorrow and we can do one Friday.
True. Okay.
I mean,
be nice to include
the way we're
Steelers,
going. Maybe we'll lose twice.
We're going to rebound.
It's coming.
It's
coming. We're gonna go on a run here.
I like it.
Okay, let's take a look at this week's top waiver pickups. At running back, Tank Bigsby somehow only rostered in 47% of leagues.
I kind of get it.
He was hurt last week and didn't.
Yeah, I considered cutting him at one point too, just because ATN actually did good stuff. Injuries have been a Bigsby issue, but more than that, it's Mac Jones. I don't think Lawrence is going to get back in. I mean, they're on a bye right now. Like, how many more usable weeks of Bigsby do you have?
That's the problem.
I didn't pull the trigger, but I thought about it.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm worried about the Giants running back now.
Right.
Since they made the quarterback change.
And that happens to these terrible teams.
Yeah.
That they cash out, and then you're left with a good fantasy player that's not getting the most out of them.
Yeah, because, you're just going to load up to stop him and dare Danny DeVito to throw the ball.
How many first downs are in the Giants' future?
I'd rather have Danny DeVito at quarterback right now.
Is that just a
Tommy
soft tank?
DeVito.
I mean, all they did was brag about Locke. Yeah,
they're tanking.
Yeah. That's a tank.
Yeah.
Is Jones getting shut? They haven't announced this, but you think he's getting shut down like Carr and Rusted?
Yep.
I mean, just don't get hurt thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so too. Yep.
Because they actually signed a practice squad quarterback today, so they may end up just telling him, "Hey, stay away from the building."
Yeah, say he may not ever be a Giant.
We don't even
again.
want you practicing because we don't want you to get hurt.
And Locke's the 2, and DeVito gives him the best chance to get the first overall pick. That's how it is.
And it makes the Giants fans happy because he grew up right down the street from Giant Stadium. Yeah. Good luck with that. Have fun with it.
Tommy Cutlets.
Gus Edwards, 28% roster.
Oh, he should be in every league.
Yeah.
I mean, he's part of a timeshare and a pretty good offense.
He got goal line touches. He got the whole deal last week.
Now fire him up.
Yeah, Dobbins is still the lead back, but Gus is going to get 10 carries a game.
They get the Ravens this week, which isn't great, but they have a pretty easy schedule going forward, too.
Yeah, after this week, it's Atlanta and then, Kansas City
that's a
at
tough
KC.
One. I didn't know the run defenses. I just know in general their schedule's not very difficult.
Tyjae Spears, 48% rostered.
I think he got hurt again, though.
Yeah, it's tough to trust.
And how good's that offense? I mean, it's actually not horrible. I shouldn't be that hard on Levis.
Yeah, he only got 5 touches last week for 8 yards.
I know.
I don't love it.
I think he's closer to cuttable than he is running out to pick up.
At this point.
Yeah.
Roshan Johnson, 7% rostered. He got in the end zone again last week.
He's their big back now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at least we have clear roles. Swift is going to be the lead guy / third down dude. And then Roshan, who coaches a door, is your grinder.
Now, there are still some touchdown-dependent leagues out there.
Yeah.
So,
he'll score the rest of the way, I would think.
Cam Akers, 17% rostered.
Jones
has not always been Mr. Reliable.
Right. And this past week he wasn't either. And I think there was another small injury or there was something around Jones, and I have him in both leagues, that prohibited him quite a bit.
They obviously like Akers. They traded for him.
Yeah, and he's clearly the 2. So he might cut into Jones's workload, period.
Yeah, Ty Chandler is probably cuttable at this point.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Jalen Wright, 6% rostered.
He's both guys back up and Mostert's hurt.
Yeah.
So I usually lean towards young legs late in their rookie year that haven't had any wear and tear.
Like a Chan, he's tiny.
He's little.
They just don't have a physical presence at all on offense.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I might. I mean, if I had a roster spot floating around out there, I'd consider it.
Imagine if they had Derrick Henry.
Right. Or Tyler Algier.
Yeah, just
a
guy who can catch the ball a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that should have been their draft pick, not right.
Yeah. Counting on 32-year-old Raheem Mostert to continue to be that guy.
And he's not even a drag. I mean, he's not a pow mover.
Yeah, but he's the best that they got.
Yeah.
Amir Abdullah with the Raiders, 0% roster.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess I'd have a really hard time starting him.
Their problem is Denver this week, at Kansas City next week, and then Tampa Bay.
I don't know what this. I didn't pay much attention to their backfield, and it's early in the week, but mostly because I have no interest in any of them. But
no, I don't either. But if you're really hard up for a bye week,
we got bye weeks coming up.
Huge bye week this week.
Yeah.
Abdullah's going to.
He'll get the ball.
He's going to get 15 touches.
I'm shocked he's still in the league, and I mean that in a good way. Like he has survived and reinvented himself, and he's okay.
I mean, the other options are Dylan Lobb and Velus Jones. Velus Jones was a wide receiver when training camp started.
Yep.
Yeah, so It's not a great situation. Abdullah's going to get the ball.
He's going to get the ball.
And he can catch.
And he can catch. He's been on the block, and I'm sure he's not great in protection, but he's been in the league long enough that he's fine.
Yeah. Quentin Johnston, moving over to wide receiver, still only rostered in 41% of leagues.
It seems pretty clear that McConkey's the one, Johnston's the two.
And he's the deep threat.
He's a deep threat, and they scheme him up pretty well, and he's been a lot better than he was in his rookie year. Will Dissly, I don't know if he's going to be on there too, is also sort of relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Herbert's on fire, and they're throwing the ball more than we thought.
Johnston got 8 targets last week. Now, he only had 2 catches for 48 yards, but he got 8 targets. And
he scored touchdowns this year.
Yeah. So
you could do worse.
Speaking of which, Christian Watson, 44% rostered. He's the ultimate fantasy tease.
I know. And I usually bite because he's kind of tantalizing, and I don't believe in Romeo Dobbs, and I've really soured on Wicks. I thought he was going to be more than he is. I'd have to study it, but it feels like Watson and Reed are the top 2 dudes. Kraft didn't get used much. I
think Dobbs is...
That's the thing.
He's on the field all the time.
Yeah, I always sell him short.
But Watson had a 23.5% target share last week. They only threw the ball 17 times.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know. I think he should be in leagues.
Every time that you pick him up and play him, though, he gets hurt.
Yeah, like I did it in our league. I'm like, I had an extra quarterback or something, picked him up for 2 weeks, then I cut him.
Yeah.
And never played him.
Elijah Moore, 8% rostered.
Deep leagues, yes.
Yeah.
He's on the field a lot. He's number 3. He gets targets.
He's got a 23% target share with Jameis Winston out there.
They all do. They're all like right around the same target share, all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, so.
They throw the ball a lot.
They do throw the ball.
Jameis is a very friendly assist for goals type guy. He sets you up.
Jalen Coker coming off the bye, 5% rostered. They've got Kansas City this week, Tampa Bay next week, then the Eagles. He might actually be usable.
He's good.
I think he might be usable against Kansas City and Tampa Bay. I don't know if I want to start him against Philly.
This is a different conversation, but a couple weeks ago, whenever he became a thing, I attacked him in my dynasty leagues. Those are a lot deeper, and I've been trying to trade for him since. I think he's a long-term starting quarterback or wide receiver, and in an offense that isn't horrible now.
Yeah. So
what's that worth for this year? Who knows? But be aware of the guy.
In the game before their bye last week, he had a 32% target share, 49.4% air yard share.
He's part of the reason Deontay's not there.
Yeah, and a 36.4% first read share.
Yeah. No, they're scheming everything. It's him and Leggett.
They're looking to get the football to him.
They know who their receivers are of the future. It's Leggett and it's him, and they're trying to trying to build something here. So he's an interesting profile because he's from a really small school, Holy Cross. I don't think he went to the combine, and he didn't run well coming out.
But he's a slot.
And he's big, and he's physical, and he had like a 42-inch vertical. Like, he's a big explosive. He's just not fast.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
Who is the Saints?
Yeah, he's like a Marquise Colston type guy. Yeah,
that's what he is.
Absolutely.
And those guys can be effective on the inside. Again, if they're a bigger bodied guy, because most of your slot corners are smaller type guys.
Right. He muscles people up. He goes up and gets it. I mean, he doesn't play super slow. He just didn't run well.
Yeah. Can't go. Wan'Dale Robinson is 48% rostered. That should be about 0% rostered at this point.
I would say so. Pure slot guy needs an accurate quarterback.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling now 25% rostered.
I mean, I would consider putting a claim in if I had an extra spot.
I think it's more of a DFS play.
Yeah.
Where it's like he and Alec Pierce are put him in there because they're cheap,
right?
And you might get a 60-yard touchdown out of it.
But if you're in a fab league and you got to actually how much do I put on this guy?
No.
Let somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a league like ours where it's just a priority waiver thing, okay, you can put a claim in. If you get him, fine. It doesn't cost you much if you cut him the next week,
Xavier Leggett, 28% rostered coming out of his bye. It's kind of the same.
Same deal. I mean, he's talented, and they're going to get him the football.
Noah Brown, 10% rostered. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and since then it's not been quite as good.
No, I think he's there too. Their defenses or offenses sputtered. It's been a while since we saw them.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can do better, but he's okay.
Leading the quarterbacks, Bo Nix, 48% rostered. He's been on fire.
I think he's a quarterback one.
He's been on fire.
Yeah.
Drake May, 14%
I
roster.
think he's a borderline quarterback one.
They both run.
Run.
Anthony Richardson at this point is 47% roster.
I know. My other league, I have May and Tua, and Saturday morning, I'm like, I have Juju still sitting on my roster. Who can I dump him for? I'm like, I'm going to go pick up Richardson, who I cut 4 weeks ago. I'll probably start him over Tua or May.
And then you'll probably end up regretting it.
Possibly. I knew I was scrambling there.
They play Detroit this week, then at New England, and then they have the bye week. So
okay, I don't know if I'd start him against the Lions.
Yeah. Jameis Winston, 12% rostered. Here's the problem. Their schedule down the stretch against defenses that they play, the next 3 weeks is Pittsburgh, at Denver, at Pittsburgh.
I want to pull something up that I found
It could
today.
get really ugly really quick.
He's going to get hit a lot, too.
Yeah.
But he is a fantasy-friendly player. I mean, that is absolutely true. He doesn't run at all, which is bad. Yeah. This is per EPA, but, any metric you want. Only the Eagles and Bears have faced an easier slate of defenses than Cleveland. And they're like the worst offense in the league. And they've faced the third easiest slate. But including this game against the Steelers, only 3 teams have a more difficult slate going forward. So they've had it super easy. Now it's about to get super hard. And I don't know that offense overcomes those things.
Yeah.
Big picture.
Yeah, they just don't block real well. And
no, and we know what he is.
Yeah. At tight end, Will Dissly, 23% rostered.
Fine with it. I mean, I think there's something to be said for how often do we say teams tell you what they think by where they spend their money. And so Harbaugh takes over. We have no cap space. I got to get rid of Mike Williams. Got to get rid of Allen. Can't go get anything. The only thing they bought on the open market was Will Dissly. They love him,
Yeah.
He's not a superstar, but,
What they it's what they got.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry, 45% rostered.
I lived with him for a little while when things were bad, and now I've been cutting him. Yeah. He is what he is.
He has at least 41 receiving yards in 4 or 5 games.
Mm-hmm. He needs to score.
That's what you're going for. You're going for the 3 for 40 train. Mm-hmm. Jatavian Sanders, 2% rostered. A lot of Carolina Panthers on here.
Yeah, I mean it's a youth movement. I mean, I'm sure Brooks is going to get more. Sanders, the 2 receivers. Not that Chuba isn't, but we need to grow our skill guys behind a pretty good line with Young.
Since week 5, Sanders has averaged 1.76 yards per route run.
And he's talented.
Yeah.
I mean, like this time last year, people were talking about it as a first-round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got some pedigree to him.
Absolutely. Looking at this week's schedule, obviously we know the Steelers are
What are the buys again? You remember you said there was a bunch, but
yeah, let me see here. Are they on here somewhere?
If not, don't sweat it. Figure it out.
They're not on here. I don't see them unless they're. Usually they have them on here, but I'm not seeing them anywhere.
All right.
Oh no, there they are. Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints, and Jets.
No, 6. I was thinking there was only 4.
It's Bamageddon this week and then week 14.
Which is playoffs. That's like the Raven one, right?
Nobody on a bye next week because of Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. That's not weird.
Yeah,
okay.
So Falcons.
What's weird is week 8 nobody had a bye.
Falcons, Bills, Bengals are very fantasy relevant.
Very.
Jets are fantasy relevant.
Oh, yeah, they got guys.
Jaguars, Saints, not so much.
No, true.
But
6 teams is painful this time of year.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a lot of
especially if you're in your stretch run here and you're like trying to win. I got to win this week.
Yeah, right. I need this.
You should have planned for this.
Yeah.
Steelers are at the Browns. You're starting the Steeler defense.
I don't think I'm starting the Browns.
I'm not starting the Browns.
Yeah, gladly fire up the Steelers.
Chiefs are at the Panthers.
That's wonderful. For
yes, you're starting the Chiefs defense, but
after they just lost, they're going to be mad.
Vikings are at the Bears. Both?
Definitely Minnesota. Their secondary's starting to crumble a little bit, which is to be expected.
It's
but
been
still,
troublesome all year, but they dial up all kinds of exotic blitzes to try to cover up for it.
Bears would be a coin flip for me.
Yeah.
It's a good defense.
You trust
it's a good
Darnold.
offense.
Yeah. Titans are at the Texans.
I like the way Houston plays on defense. They fly around. Maybe Will Anderson comes back, but no on the Titans.
No on the Titans.
Yeah.
Lions are at the Colts.
Lions,
you're going to play them every week.
Mm-hmm.
Although they just lost Anzalone, too.
I know.
The injuries are starting to pile up for them a little bit. Patriots at the Dolphins. Start the Dolphins defense?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, they get after the passer okay. It's not bad.
Buccaneers at the Giants. Well, you have to start the Buccaneers defense, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been that great this year, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, Todd Bowles against
Danny DeVito.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming off a bye, right?
Ugh.
Yeah. Mike Evans due back soon?
Soon.
I think.
Yeah. Cowboys are at the Commanders.
I guess Washington.
That's a tough start.
I know. I don't love their defense at all. I was thinking Cooper Rush, Zach Martin, Tyson Smith, and Tyler Guyton got hurt last night.
It's troubling.
And Lamb got banged up late.
Troubling.
Yeah. I just wonder what Dallas is trotting out there this week.
It is a rivalry game, but
Washington's coming off a bye, right?
No, they played. They played Thursday night. Yeah.
It's been a while.
I guess you could start them, but I don't love it.
No,
I like the matchup.
I don't know that I'm picking them up.
Yeah,
but maybe in DFS if they're super cheap.
There's a lot of good defense, a lot of good matchups.
I said we haven't had a hard time finding it.
Broncos are at the Raiders.
That's great.
That's a great matchup.
Great. No on Broncos.
No on the Raiders, yeah. 49ers at the Packers.
I'm leaning towards no on both.
I saw
Bosa's hurt. I don't know if he's playing or not, but
Bosa's banged up. Purdy's banged up.
Yeah. Debo doesn't look the same. I mean, I don't know that either offense is crazy scary, but I also don't really trust either defense as much as I'd like.
Yeah. The Cardinals are at the Seahawks. No and no?
No and no.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I liked how Seattle's D played, though, this past week. But Arizona's hard to play against.
Eagles are at the Rams.
No and no.
I don't
and
like
I
that
like
either.
The Eagles D, but not with a healthy Kupp and Nakua and in their building.
And then the Monday night game. That's a Sunday night game, by the way. Eagles at Rams.
Good one.
Monday night, Ravens at Chargers. So the Ravens get the extra rest on this game,
they
too.
get it all the time.
Yeah.
They're plus 16 for the year. Harbaugh versus Harbaugh.
I know that you know that
yeah.
Mom liked you best. And
I mean, the timing's bad to say this, but I'm been on the fence or on the side of you don't start any defenses against the Ravens. Now, do I change my tune after one game and this is a good defense and Harbaugh knows Harbaugh and all that?
They got a bunch of guys. So what Jim Harbaugh did was bring in some Ravens guys.
Oh, the familiarity is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, the coordinators and, everybody. Dobbins and Edward. I mean, they're just.
Yeah, here's what Lamar doesn't like to do.
Yeah, and this guy was at Michigan with Jim. And, that's why I think the game's going to be like 7-3.
But if Roquan Smith doesn't play.
That's a good one.
I can't play the Ravens defense because I think the Chargers will control the game.
I think the Chargers might win.
I think the Chargers might win this outright, especially if Roquan doesn't play. Kyle Hamilton might still be – he's not himself.
They're not putting him near the line of scrimmage.
And that's what helps them stop the run. They might have to do that if Roquan is out because they're not going to be able to stop the run.
I'm sure the Chargers will run.
The Steelers ran for 50 yards against them in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So –
those other linebackers are not good.
You start neither D.
If I had to start one, I would start the Chargers.
I like the way the Ravens rushed the passer, though. That was a little bit unexpected. But those tackles are great for the Chargers. That was Owe, and I don't know if they'll do.
They did give up some pressure against the Bengals. I
don't know what to think about the defense.
I mean, there are better.
Yeah,
there are better standalones.
I'm not sure I'm cutting the Chargers though to go pick up a goofy one.
No, the Ravens haven't run the ball as well the last 4 weeks.
No.
They're only averaging about 125 yards per game the last 5 weeks.
And Lamar hasn't been nearly as potent on the ground. I doubt they get away from Henry again.
Chargers can rush the passer.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what to think. I mean, I guess if I had either one, I'd probably just stick with it and live with it,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a shootout.
I don't know if people still have the Ravens defense, though, in fantasy.
A lot of people have the Chargers, for sure.
Yeah. The Ravens have probably been droppable from
too many big plays allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't run out to pick them up, though, either.
But Steelers defense, Chiefs defense, Vikings defense, Texans defense, Denver, the Lions defense, the Dolphins defense. They're all better matchups. Buccaneers against the Giants.
Yeah. And about 5 of those you mentioned are slam dunks.
I think I might rather start the Commanders against the Cowboys going back to that.
Yeah, I think I would too. Just considering the state of the Cowboys, especially if those linemen are really hurt.
Yeah, lots of good matchups this week that we can pick from.
Despite being 6 teams on bye. But yeah.
Yeah.
Steelers are high on the list.
Steelers should be very high on the list. I mean, 46 sacks the Browns have allowed.
Ugh. Yeah.
Ugly.
Yeah, I think
that's by far the most in the league.
By far. 4.6 a game. I mean, come on, man.
I think in the T.J. Watt era, when the Steelers have faced a team that is last in sacks allowed.
Yeah, there was something
6-0.
We got sent today.
The Steelers are 6-0 in those games, and Watt has 6 sacks.
And he's, again, not surprising.
Not surprising,
right?
yeah.
Right.
You can try to stop him, but
yeah,
you're probably not going to hold up the entire game.
And I don't like the way they're built to stop sacks. So going back to hour 1 of who's the chipper, who's the 6th guy, tackles are bad.
We want to run 11 personnel. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they do. That's their best guys. And it's kind of worked compared to the rest of their offense this year, which has been
not
miserable.
winning.
No.
But anyways, that's going to do it for the Fantasy Football Focus. Matt and I are going to get to a break. When we come back, it feels like later in the week, but it is Tuesday. That's Power Ranking Day. So we'll take a look at those when we come back right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And, Matt, it's time to look at the power rankings. Should be some shakeups in this one this week.
I would think.
There's no shakeup at number 32.
Nor should there be.
Eric Edholm on NFL.com. The Jacksonville Jaguars are at 32 after their 52-6 loss to the Detroit Lions. That was, if you remember, that was a 13.5 point spread,
which
the
was
largest of the years.
Right.
Still wasn't enough.
Wasn't even close. I mean, it wasn't competitive at any point.
The Lions have done that. Basically, when they play a bad team,
they're the blow you out.
They're going to blow you out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just the mark of a great team.
Well, and I think the Campbell's reasoning for that is, hey, we're trying to build something here.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't want to win this, because he's taken some criticism. Why you still have starters in there late in the game and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if Goff would have got hurt or St. Brown,
like Penei Sewell was still in there late in that game. Like,
I don't think I would do that personally. I mean,
you only have so many spots that you can take out.
It's hard to you can't just put a whole new offensive line in.
But yeah, they'll blow if they play a bad team. Just remember that down the road here, if they're playing somebody bad, they're going to smack them.
They don't hesitate. Yeah.
At 31, the 2-8 Raiders.
They're really terrible now. I mean, quarterback's a mess, is very predictable. New offense coordinator, 2 or 3 good players.
Yeah. At 30, holding steady, the Tennessee Titans.
I always think they're a little bit better than the garbage teams. I think that's a little harsh.
I think that is too.
Yeah.
I would have them over this next team. At 29, the Giants.
Yeah, I'd have them over the Browns.
With the Penguin at quarterback. That should be his nickname. He should be Tommy DeVito as the Penguin.
Because
they love these nicknames in New York. He should be the
He's
Penguin.
not short on nicknames, though.
No, he's not. Because that's what they do in New York, because everybody's going to have a nickname.
Danny Dimes is the worst one ever.
I hate it.
Anyway.
I friggin' hate it.
The as currently constructed with him as a quarterback, they would get beat bad by Tennessee.
They're going to get crushed week after week. They're trying to lose.
Right. Well, Tennessee is behind them in the power ranks. Tennessee's much better than them.
Yeah.
With DeVito as a quarterback.
At 28, holding steady, the Carolina Panthers.
2 wins in a row. Let's give them a little bit of credit. I mean, the defense doesn't have anything.
No. Are they better than the 3-8 Patriots who are at 27?
Patriots or Browns haven't been mentioned yet. I mean, I'm putting the Titans over all these teams we mentioned.
Yeah, I think so too. Patriots at 27.
At least there's glimpses from the quarterback. It's exciting, but
yeah. At 26 are the 2-8 Browns.
Real quick, I just read this today. You probably did too, because the Browns were second on the list. Patriots have started 8 different O-line combinations.
Yeah.
And Browns are at 7. I mean, come on.
Steelers are at 5.
I know.
One of the amazing things about this season for them is they've started 5 different, because you see how things are going for the other teams that have started a lot of different line combinations.
Browns and Patriots, right?
Yeah,
right.
They're way down on the list here.
It's a really hard thing to overcome. And Steelers had great O-line injury luck before this year.
Yeah.
Came home to roost a little bit. The fact that the Patriots and Browns are this high up is just a reflection of how bad the league is right now. Because they're really bad teams.
Cleveland had 443 yards of offense and didn't turn the ball over against the Saints and scored 14 points.
Still got beat
14
bad.
points.
Yeah.
On 443 yards and no turnovers.
And they caused a couple turnovers.
Yeah, they forced two turnovers.
Yeah.
Both from Taysom Hill, and then they gave up 3 touchdowns to him.
That's horrible.
It's really hard. You should average, if you have 440, you should average basically 10 points for every 100 yards that you gain.
That's kind of the ratio over the years, right? Yeah.
So you get 443 yards, you got to have about 40 points with no turnovers, unless you turn the ball over like 5 times.
Sure. I mean, it's different. You get down the goal line and, throw it to their team or whatever, right?
It's really
hard to do.
They missed every kicker in the AFC North last week. Except
Multiple.
Not named Chris Boswell, missed 2 field goals.
Yeah. I mean, that adds up too.
Cleveland's kicker, Dustin Hopkins, is 14 of 20.
I know. Really bad.
Really bad.
I think the rest of their special teams is average-ish, but their kicker's terrible.
Terrible. At 25 down a spot, Dallas.
Yes. Again, Cooper Rush, no one on the O-line, short on weapons. Parsons came back and the defense showed some life.
The defense played hard.
They did. And I don't know how much longer you're going to get that.
They made a game of it for about a half.
Yeah.
A little longer now.
And he's clearly a difference maker.
Yeah.
But, they're not very good.
At 24, up a spot. Ugh, the Jets. They stink.
Are the Titans better than all these teams?
Maybe.
I mean, they were like 30. I feel like I'm this Titans supporter, but all these teams are horrible.
The Jets are
really bad.
Awful.
Yeah.
They just fired their GM today.
I mean,
there's nobody left to fire in the building except for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and this isn't exactly my area of expertise, but I guess Woody Johnson, their owner, has serious Trump ties, and he may get employed by him, and they don't know who's going to run the team, and what a disaster.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner's not playing well. You're doing something wrong if Sauce Gardner's not playing well.
They scored a season-high 27 points last week and still lost.
Yeah. Ugh.
At 23, holding steady.
Who's going to want that GM job?
The Saints. No, nobody's going to want that job.
Saints are way better than all these teams now. They're back to respectable. They're now in the average category.
At 22,
below average.
Yeah, 22 down 3 spots. The Bears.
Okay, showing signs of life.
These were the teams early in the season. The Jets, the Saints, the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of people, this is their year. They're really on it this year, and no.
When's the last time it was their year?
Yeah, it just hasn't been the case.
At least the Bears and Saints haven't made golf plans yet.
At 21, down 3 spots, the Bengals.
Ooh.
They're a bad football team, Matt.
Oh, I'm not saying, man, I wouldn't use the word bad.
They're a bad football team. You're 4-7. You are what your record says you are. Offensively, they're a good football team.
Right.
In areas.
And they lose all their losses.
The offensive line
games.
is not good. They can't run the football.
Absolutely.
Burrow's playing out of his mind. The defense is awful. That's a bad football team.
I just think that's a little low. But let's hold out reservation of who's above them. They would definitely be ahead of everybody listed for me.
They're a dangerous football team.
No question. And they got a superstar quarterback.
But
their losses are not explainable, but they're all close, too.
The players, I think, are getting very frustrated with this all.
Oh, I think Burrow and Chase.
They're ticking time bombs.
Absolutely. I think that's 100% true. Do you think they make changes?
Yes.
Knowing who the owners are.
Well, I don't know what his contract status is.
That's very important. They don't want to pay 2.
They don't want to pay 2.
They probably won't pay 2.
Yeah.
But
there may be some coordinator changes. There may be some.
They're in a bad
Lou
place.
Anarumo was the hot name out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He might be a position coach next year.
Yeah, he might not be back.
No, they're in a bad spot considering they have an elite quarterback.
Because they fixed nothing this season.
No. And the O-line investments aren't paying off. Oh, they got so many things wrong with them.
Yeah.
We don't disagree on them. They're a dangerous football team.
Yeah. At 20, up 2 spots, the Colts.
Okay. They're about the most average team in the league to me.
Yeah. At 19, up 2 spots, the Rams.
I think I'd have the Colts ahead of the Bengals. Maybe that's where they belong. The Rams I'd have ahead of the Bengals too.
Yeah.
Rams are playing better. I trust them more. They're better coached.
At 18, up 2 spots, the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have the Dolphins above the Bengals.
Yeah, I would too.
At 17, down 3 spots, Atlanta.
I'm starting to lose a little luster there, too. Like the Bengals, like Miami, they don't have any physicality. Yeah, they get pushed around a lot. Not a real tough-minded team or organization overall. That starts showing up around Thanksgiving.
Yeah. They're still 4-0 in their division.
They're going to win the division.
They're going to win the division.
Yeah, yeah. But they have to win a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't love the defense either.
At 16, down 3 spots, San Francisco.
That's right. I think they have some issues.
All the Kyle Shanahan love out there. What a great coach he is. And I think he's a good I think he's a good offensive schemer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a great offensive schemer.
Yes.
I don't know that he's a good head coach.
I think that's a good conversation. Like McVay's a great head coach.
Yeah.
You know, and they always get lumped together.
Yeah.
I'd always lean towards McVay.
Yeah.
They might be the equal schemers. Who do I want to run my organization? Who's in charge of my billion-dollar
Because he
organization?
has years like this.
Yeah. And
When they're good, they're really good. When they're bad,
people don't talk about Super Bowl hangovers anymore for the losing team, but it's a grind, man. All those guys wanted contracts. They played extra football last year. You know, injuries weren't kind to them this year.
Yeah.
Like they get a couple things that are really hurting them that are unusual for them is they can't put teams away because now with a lead, they have one pass rusher and he's got a bad hip. They need Hargrave. They need Armstead. They need Buckner. They used to have 8 pass rushers, like a Steeler-like deep
this
front.
is what happens when you're good, though.
Yeah,
you don't get those premium. Those guys are all the guys you're talking about. There were either big free agent acquisitions or
first-round picks,
high first-round picks.
Right. I mean, it wasn't hard to draft Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was not hard to draft
Buckner
Myles Garrett.
or those guys.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, their offense lacks explosion.
Yeah.
Debo looks slow. Who's the game changer? And I heard a good description of Purdy too. Like he's really, really good, but he doesn't have a superpower. You know, like when the going gets tough, he can't attack the entire field.
He's kind of Batman.
Yeah.
Batman doesn't have any superpowers.
Right.
Batman's all gadgety.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's all, look at these toys.
That's great.
If Batman doesn't have his toys, what's Batman?
Right. Yeah, rich.
What was the line of Rich? What are you? I'm a rich. It was actually Tony Stark line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What are you without the suit? And he said, "I'm a
billionaire,
rich billionaire playboy." Yeah.
Okay.
Philanthropist, whatever.
Worst things to be out there.
Yeah. 15 up 2 spots. Seattle.
Yeah, I thought they were about to get buried, and the Niners were going to take over, and I think they're going the opposite directions.
Yeah, it's interesting that they get rid of Terrell Dodson on their own, and then Connor Williams, their center, retires.
And he's still winning
games.
games.
And they still beat.
Yeah, it's promising.
At 14 up 2 spots, Tampa Bay.
Ooh, I'd probably have them behind those last 2 teams.
Yeah, I can't do that. Although their next 2 games are against Dallas and Carolina.
Yeah. I mean,
they're going to be
they'll
6
probably
and 6.
End up in this neighborhood the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, are they going to raise them up, though, when they beat those 2 bad teams?
I wouldn't raise them up for being on a bye over Seattle or San Francisco.
Yeah. At 13 up 2 spots, Denver.
I would have them ahead of everyone listed. They're tough. I mean, they're physical. They're good at the line of scrimmage. Quarterback's getting better. I think they're going to the playoffs.
At 12, down a spot, Arizona.
Arizona or Denver? They couldn't be more different.
They couldn't be more different.
The Cardinals.
The Cardinals are playing better football.
Their offense is good.
Yeah, and they're not easy to play against.
No, they're really well coached.
Yeah. At 11, up a spot. This is why the Cardinals moved down. The Texans.
Yeah, I'm believing that they're back to being a contender. Maybe not a Super Bowl contender, but I like where they're at. Nico coming back goes a long way.
I don't know if I can say that one victory over a really.
I like the health thing though is trending the right direction.
They're getting more healthy.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. Yeah, but the offensive line is still a problem.
It's a problem. Tunsil still with the penalties.
The left side of that line is bad.
Yeah, it is.
And you're paying the left tackle a lot of money.
I hope for his sake it's injuries and it's not over for him.
At 10, down 2 spots, Washington.
Yeah, they're trending the wrong way. They're not a big boy.
No.
I would probably pick Houston over
honestly, they're
Watching the game
kind of
right
two fluky wins away from being 5-6. Hail Mary in a game against the Giants that they didn't have their kicker.
Mm-hmm.
It's still good. It's still a good story.
It's
You still
still a
found
good
ways
story,
to win
yeah.
those games.
Right. It's still a promising year.
They were
It's
out
still
over
a
their
good
skis
year.
a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
When they
I
were
think
number
that's safe.
5 in the league.
We'll see how they come back.
At 9 up a spot, the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm there with that.
At 8 up a spot, Green Bay.
Fine.
I don't know that they're the juggernaut.
No, I think they're good, not great.
Yeah.
Is where they'll be this year. But I'm not sure any of the teams below them are juggernauts.
I don't know that they're a Super Bowl contender this year in the NFC.
I lean that way as well.
I think the quarterback's still throwing way too many interceptions.
And who's the stars?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a collection of good. It's not who's great.
At 7, down 3 spots, the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm glad that the Steelers are ahead of the Ravens. And I actually thought about that driving here today. I'm like, I would have Pittsburgh ahead of Baltimore.
You have to.
Yeah. They have some chinks.
At 6, up a spot. They only moved up 1 spot, the Steelers.
I guess we could pretty much know who the top 5 is, but I don't have a problem with 6.
I think the Steelers are a better team.
I think they're better than the Vikings.
That's who's at number 5.
Yeah, they're still out there.
I think the Vikings are kind of getting by on. They look like they're running on fumes right now.
I'd have the Vikings behind the Packers, the Ravens, and the Steelers.
Yeah, I know they're 8-2, but the last 2 weeks have not been.
No, I don't trust them. I don't trust the quarterback. I don't trust the cornerbacks.
Yeah. The defense
and the O-lines.
Yeah. At 4.
Yeah,
up,
I feel like they're hanging on by a thread.
4 up a spot is Philadelphia.
Agreed. They would be my 4. I think the top 4 are pretty easy to put there.
3 down a spot, Kansas City.
Yeah, I think you have to put Buffalo ahead of them.
2 is Buffalo.
Okay.
1 is Detroit.
Yeah. I'd have the Steelers 5.
I would have the Steelers 5 too.
Yeah. I got no problem with that. I think the 4 ahead of them are deservedly so. I'm not sure if Philly's a big-time contender or not.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Let's continue this kind of talk here in the next segment. He is Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. That was Eric Edholm's power rankings for this week. There was an analytics guy that posted something on Twitter this week. I guess he has his own website. It's getting Steeler fans very fired up. We'll talk about that next.
All right.
On The Drive. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley, and he is the Matt Williamson. We're just talking about our inadequacies as, anything with shovels or
any kind of building,
screwdrivers
construction. I just don't see it, or anything musical I am horrific at.
I have a little musical talent, but that's
I know
neither here nor there.
Right.
But
except for listening to Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses. That's about as that I can do.
I actually got accused, just complete aside here, of doctoring my son's baseball bat one time in baseball, because the bat came and had these little things on the end of it, and nobody else had the bat. I had seen the bat at the Little League World Series, and everybody's
wood or aluminum.
Aluminum. People are hitting dingers with it at the Little League World Series. I'm like, I'm going to try that out for my son. We got it. He hit the ball well with it.
But he was a good player.
He was a good player.
Yeah.
And then somebody questioned the bat, and the league president came out, and it had these things on it. And he says, "This bat's been doctored." I looked at him. I said, "If you knew how
bad I am at this,"
yeah. I said, "You can come over to my garage and you tell me how I doctored this bat, because I have like 5 tools. I wouldn't even know how to begin to doctor a bat."
And my father-in-law, who's passed away, is the total opposite. I mean, that side of the family is wonderful at it. You know, like when I asked my wife's hand in marriage, like, after I teach you to weld, I'm like, well, we're never getting married, dude. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
I mean, And he doesn't know anything about football, and, it was fine. We got along great, but yeah.
This leads me into analytics.
How do you cork a bat? I wasn't done with the bat conversation.
With the wooden bat, I guess you drill
you
the
drill
center
it out and
out,
put cork in the middle to make it lighter, more
balls or whatever, and then all you're doing is making the bat lighter.
I thought it gave it a little more spring or something too.
Well, but it's making the bat lighter, so you can, because wooden bats are drop 3s usually, or the weight is. So if it's a 32-inch bat, it's 29 ounce.
I was all proud of myself that
I know that much. But
I put water in my wiffle ball bat and sealed the bottom.
So you did doctor the
I
bat.
did doctor it because it sits here, and then when you swing, it goes to the top.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. So, analytics. A guy named Kevin Cole, who in his bio
I think I know that name.
said he used to be previously a data scientist at PFF.
Okay.
Stats are numbers, numbers are nerds. This is what he says in his bio. Stats are numbers, numbers are nerds, nerds are losers, therefore stats are losers. Then he puts out a stat that says, the Steelers are on a run of luckier results since Russell Wilson took over as a starter. 3 of the 4 wins were losses if you go by my adjusted scores.
Okay. Might be taking this a little far now. I mean, there's times that you win games you shouldn't, or you get a bounce, or something like that. But for the most part, to quote you a little bit ago and to quote Parcells, you kind of are what your record is, you know? I think there is lucky stretches and unlucky stretches. But I have a hard time with that phrasing.
Yes.
You know, like...
This is where the analytics people get themselves into trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are there stronger 8-2s versus other 8-2s? Absolutely, depending who you played and how it went, and the Giants didn't have a kicker. You know, I mean, things like that. No question.
So the 3 games that he's talking about are against the Ravens. He said the Steelers should have lost that game 21-17. How he comes to that, I have no idea. He has some different numbers there, and that's all well and good. They won the game 18-16.
See, I wonder when people do these things, like, well, he should have caught that interception. Yeah, but he didn't.
But he didn't.
I mean,
there's a human factor, which the analytics nerds don't take into account.
Exactly, right.
He had them losing the Commanders, the game against the Commanders, which they won 28-27, losing that one 25-22. Again, I don't know why. I don't know how.
Trying to react to this and explain it, but I don't know how. I'd like an explanation from him.
Even more baffling to me is he had them losing the game against the Jets, which they won 37-15. Handily. He had them, his adjusted score had the Steelers losing that one 21-20.
But they won by a ton.
But they won by 20 points. They won by more points than he had the Jets scoring in his adjusted score.
I'm trying to do the Godfather think as those around you think. I mean, is he saying, like, at one point in the game, if they just make this 4th down, then the rest of the game, butterfly effect, everything's different?
I have no idea.
That sounds like predicting things that you really
Here's the
shouldn't
thing.
predict.
And I hate to even bring it up because this is basically trolling he's trolling Steeler fans is what he's doing.
Yeah. And we're helping him. Yeah.
But if you're going to be that moronic about things, you deserve to be trolled.
Yeah. You know, like, I look at some post-game stuff, like some PFF even does like an adjusted score based on time of possession and different stuff, and I take it with a grain of salt, but I look at it. Maybe I can learn something. But like that Jets one loses all credibility to me. You know,
they won the game by 22 points, and you're saying that they were lucky to win.
Yeah.
That they should have lost at 22-21 or 21-20. Get out of here with that.
Right. I mean, if you Cynthia Freeland it and say, if they played 100 times, this is the one outlier. Okay.
It's amazing to me how all the Jets games have been the outlier then this year.
Right.
Like at some point, human factors into this. Humans factor.
I forget which week the Raiders beat the Ravens. But that's probably in the top 5% of outcomes.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that happens.
But it happens.
You know?
Against Washington, the Steelers didn't force the Commanders to jump off sides on a 4th down play.
But they had some effect.
They had an effect on it, though.
Right.
But the analytics, by analytics standards, the Steelers should go for that.
I know. That's another one that bugs me, too, with analytics, is I really, really like EPA, and I was fiddling with their site more than I have last night, just to kind of even learn more. And they have a section of just how often did every team make the right call on 4th down. And I clicked on it, and I didn't even look through it, but I just thought, this is not the best use of analytics.
Yeah.
There's too many variables.
Well, for example,
the wind or, you know.
The Browns have attempted, how about this, 24 4th down plays this year.
I knew it was a ton.
They're 14 of 24, but it's because they're losing a lot. It's not because they're analytically driven.
No, right. It's not Dan Campbell who's analytically driven who's going to go for it on fourth down. That's his philosophy. Or Staley with the Chargers when he took over. That's part of the reason he got hired. The analytics folks said, okay, we're buying into this go for it on fourth down.
How'd that work out for him?
Not well.
Not
and
well
even the
at all.
Lions, I mean.
They lose some games because of that stuff.
Including the playoff game.
Yeah.
Now, it helps when you Penei Sewell. If you have 4th and 2 and I'm going to run behind Penei Sewell with Montgomery or throw it to St. Brown or whatever, then you should go for it.
Right.
Tomlin went for it more when he had Ben and Bell and Brown.
Yeah, when they were clicking as the offensively,
He's going more for it now than he did last year.
Right.
Again, tell me the play call. Tell me the wind and rain and field conditions. Is Aaron Donald on the field?
Yeah.
Is it against the steel curtain? Maybe you shouldn't go for it. Hunt,
But please, Kevin Cole, get out of here with these lucky win stuff.
The Jets one, I mean, if you want to tell me the other two, I can write a story that they should have lost that game. I'm not saying they should have, but the Jets one.
They could have.
They could have, right.
They were close football games.
But
you can't tell me that a 37-15 beatdown was now somehow a 21-20 loss.
And what I was going to say is they also could have beat the Cowboys or Colts.
Correct.
There
was some bad luck in those games.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I don't get that part. And the Jets one's where you lost.
This is where the analytics crowd gets themselves into trouble, trying to push ridiculous analytics.
Right. And I do think that's one of the problems with the analytics community right now is everyone wants to come up with the
something new.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to and
DVOA
sometimes they just don't work.
But mine's better.
Yeah.
EPA is great, but mine's better. I've, created the wheel. I created fire. I don't think you ever will.
You're not Tom Hanks on the beach. I have created fire.
Right.
Dancing around. No, you've
all these things
come up with something moronic.
Right. Like I remember when I was, in the league, yards per attempt was a big thing, or yards per play. People didn't think that way. That's great. That's a good. Now we can think even further.
Yeah.
And next year we'll learn more. But you're not going to be able. I was joking. Like, why we even play the games?
Right.
You know what I mean? Why even
According
go out
to Kevin
there?
Cole, you don't have to because here's what it should be.
Yeah. Derrick Henry has a bad knee. I don't give him the ball. There's a lot going on here.
Absolutely. But Matt, that's going to do it for the show today.
Good one.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow we're making picks.
We're making picks.
We're making one pick.
One pick. We'll be back again on Friday after the game on Thursday night. So we'll continue previewing the Steelers versus Browns. We'll get even a little bit more into it. We'll have an injury report to deal with officially at that point. But
then you'll be on your road to Cleveland.
On the road to Cleveland. On the road again.
Yep.
But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here, manning the Justin Miller hotline, and for Tyler Vittmeyer, making sure our videos get out on YouTube, which you should check out, and take some more shots at Matt.
Yeah,
I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.